Next News, breaking news.
While you weren't paying attention, Ohio just exposed an industrial-scale Medicaid theft operation right in the heart of Columbus. Nearly 40% of the state's entire home health spending funneled into one county, and over 40% of that landed in just two zip codes, 4 miles apart. Auditors discovered shell companies operating out of deserted buildings, billing taxpayers for companionship services that never happened. The numbers are already climbing past $3 billion in potential losses, and that's only what they've found so far. So how many more billions vanished before anyone bothered to look? See, this is not abstract ways happening far away. Every Ohio taxpayer and every American funding Medicaid through federal dollars is footing the bill for fake patients, inflated hours, and payments to relatives who never left their own living rooms. Elderly citizens who genuinely need care get shortchanged while the system hemorrhages money on housekeeping and conversation scams. Franklin County alone absorbed nearly $1 billion last year in home health services with almost no verification possible once the provider walks out the door. Weak oversight under previous administrations let concentrated networks exploit the system at scale. When billions disappear like this, Americans lose trust that any safety net will actually work for those who truly need it. The pattern now stretches from Minnesota to California and lands squarely in Ohio with the same red flags every single time. And the same broken system that funnels billions to ghost providers is also failing real Americans struggling with genuine health issues. Now, you've probably seen the clip, Joe Rogan sitting with Mel Gibson, talking about people close to him who went through serious health struggles and then saw dramatic turnarounds. Rogan brings up red light-based therapies and how they impact the body at a cellular level. Gibson says it's straight. This stuff works. Now, that got my attention because in my own life, I watched something very similar unfold. For a long time, my wife was dealing with constant discomfort and anxiety. It was one of those situations where the usual approaches left her frustrated until we tried red light therapy from Jonathan Otto. The difference showed up in energy, sleep, and daily comfort without adding another prescription. Real solutions like this actually help people instead of draining the system through endless unverified billing. Check it out at myredlight.com. It's linked below. Use NNN25 for 25% off individual items or NNN30 for 30% off bundles. Now back to the Ohio scandal, where real accountability remains missing. Investigators, they also uncovered nearly 100 Medicaid home health companies operating from a single empty Columbus building that billed $66 million for services nobody received. The same audit caught 9 providers charged with hundreds of thousands in stolen funds through falsified timesheets and ineligible patients. Payments even went to deceased recipients because the outdated system never caught them. This is no longer scattered mistakes, but a concentrated extraction machine. Wall Street apes 7 nearly empty buildings housing 288 companies billed a combined $250 million between 2018 and 2024. Investigators, they found widespread shell companies tied to Somali immigrant networks in Columbus, Somalis again, which is the second largest Somali population in the United States. Ohio spent $1 billion on home health care services in 2024 alone. Nearly 100 Medicaid home health companies found operating out of a single empty building in Columbus billed taxpayers $66 million over a few years for services like companionship. Oh, it goes on and on and on. Oh yeah, they're celebrating. Oh, those Somalis in Columbus. Luke Rosiak uncovered this.
Windows on the outside helps hide the fact that there's nobody inside, but when you go in, it's really obvious. The place is deserted. It's downright creepy. There is no one in any of the offices. They're dark. Curtains are drawn. Some of them have notes that are like, "We'll be back in a few minutes," and you can tell it's been that way for months.
Yep, that's generally how it is, right? Much of the money flows through private homes, but the real concentration is in just 2 zip codes. Eric Doherty reports that Ohio facing mass calls for federal investigation after the country's second largest Somali hotbed, Franklin County and Columbus, found to be likely rife with Medicaid fraud. Billions of dollars in two zip codes 4 miles apart.
Congressman Warren Davidson is calling for stronger oversight of Medicaid after a recent audit found an error rate of nearly 16% in the state system. That means that millions or even billions of dollars could be at risk for waste or fraud. Our senior correspondent Mike Tobin shows us tonight. He's in our Midwest Bureau.
Scrutiny over Medicaid fraud now turns to suspicious billing in Ohio, something the vice president has been talking about for months.
We know that the fraud isn't just happening in Minneapolis, it's also happening in states like Ohio.
A state audit found almost 40% of Medicaid's home health services dollars spent in Ohio went to just one county, Franklin County, of which Columbus is the seat. And more than 40% of that money went to just two zip codes. The addresses are all within 4 miles of each other. The overall tax dollars in question run into the billions.
$800 million to $4 billion is real money. It's real money for Bob and Betty Buckeye, who we all work for, and it's real money that we want to see get fixed.
Home health care providers are supposed to care for people in the dignity and comfort of their own homes. Fox News tracked two buildings within the Franklin County zip codes that house a total of more than 6 home health care businesses between them. The suspicion, like other Medicaid fraud cases, is that services are billed but underdelivered or not delivered at all.
We, of course, want to make sure that the payments are going to people that, let's say in an extreme case, is the person that's receiving home care still alive? Are they being cared for? Does someone show up and care for them? What does that care look like?
Governor Mike DeWine wrote that Ohio has extensive oversight mechanisms like signed activity logs, background checks on providers, and electronic visit verification. But the state auditor tells us loopholes exist.
The numbers don't reflect that they have the controls in place to stop what could be a very large situation of fraud.
A place in charge of the Medicaid fraud task force, the vice president is turning investigators on his home state. And as he posted on X, to take immediate action to prosecute any fraudsters involved and stop all further payments as appropriate. John?
So, an Ohio reporter warning state officials while the Medicaid scheme back in December still hasn't received the public records request. Check this out.
So these individuals tried to report the fraud that was happening in Ohio and then eventually came to me to say that we're watching providers rubber stamp paperwork for home health. So in Ohio, and there's many states like this, Pennsylvania and other states too, where you can go in and you can say my aging parent needs a home health care and I want to provide it. So the state will, as long as a doctor has approved it, continue to pay you. It could be for 10 hours, 12 hours, up to 24 when it's critical care. So you could sit at home without caring for an elderly parent who really doesn't need it, make about $75,000 to $90,000 a year. Now you add two parents, that's $180,000. Now you add your in-laws, $250,000. You continue to add this and you wonder, what are the services being provided? So a lot of providers came and said, fraud is occurring because we said we weren't going to rubber stamp this paperwork, so they went to other providers. Their home health care network saying, we'll make it worth your while. Well, sounds like a kickback to me. So we really need to investigate the Medicaid system and how much it's increased since the Somalian population came and who really needs critical care, because that's meant for our disabled, our elderly, and people who really need it, not to just live off our system. And that's what's happening in Ohio. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's despicable, but authorities are now looking at it from the Attorney General's office to the U.S. Attorney's office. I flagged them all because this is Ohio tax dollars and we have to take it seriously. I'm tired of people telling me, well, this is the way it's always been. It's subjective and we can't really check. No, you can. Audit America, audit Ohio now. And I'm pushing for that in every single state.
So auditors have now put hard numbers on the scale. Andrew Colvette writes, Ohio auditors just exposed massive red flags in the Medicaid home health care spending. Here's more on that.
Now to a fraud scheme that could potentially cost taxpayers in Ohio hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet a recent audit revealing major red flags in that state's Medicaid program. Mike Tobin following all of it. Mike joins us now from our Midwest Bureau. Mike, what you find out? Hello.
Well, overall, Bill, Ohio gets billions of dollars from the Fed for its Medicaid program. The state's auditor has found some very suspicious ways the home health care money is being distributed. During a recent state audit, investigators found 40% of the money spent went to just one county. That's Franklin County, where Columbus is. And almost 40% of that money went to just 2 zip codes. The addresses are all within 4 miles of each other. The state auditor says overall they found what they call an error rate of almost 16%. Now, error rate is just a bureaucratic way to say money sent to people for whom it was not intended.
Now, some of them were dead people that were still on the rolls. Some of them were other type of errors. But is 15.6% something?
So what this really reveals is that entitlement programs collapse without ironclad verification and immigration oversight. When networks from the second largest Somali community in America concentrate fraud in 2 zip codes, the problem is no longer accidental. Previous administrations ignored these patterns for years while taxpayers absorbed billions in losses. President Trump is now forcing the federal spotlight onto these failures and demanding real crackdowns. The deep state and the bureaucratic inertia cannot be trusted to police themselves any longer. So the Ohio Medicaid scandal proves that the old system is broken, and Americans deserve accountability now. So share this report with everybody you know who still believes that the numbers will fix themselves. Drop a comment below. Answer this yes or no question. Should every state trigger automatic federal audits the moment one county swallows 40% of Medicaid home health care dollars? And text raw feed to 844-840-4963 right now to bypass the algorithm. Get direct updates from me. Make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video for some new gear that shows you stand for America first. We'll keep digging until every last dollar is accounted for.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.